Hello, this is Mel McGinnis with the Sophie Scholl Society, and next, to the golden EPI microphone is an announcement about Babies' Lives Matter. Babies' lives do matter. We're having a pro-life rally on Sunday, August 25th, 6 p.m. at the Park United Methodist Church. Be a voice for the voiceless unborn. There you will hear Jesse Bailey Anderson, who is the new executive director of Options Care Ministries, or Options Care Center, and the president of the board of directors for the Options Care Center, Kelly Wittenbrook. Babies' lives matter. We want to be a voice for those who cannot speak up for themselves. So hope you'll be a part of that. But I wanted to cover something else today, too. It's with respect to what has been done to polling about this very issue of the sanctity of human life. This one outfit, Public Religion Research Institute, did a new abortion poll, and it suggests that most Americans think that abortion should be widely legal, but not so fast, as Lee Corso of College Game Day would say. Because when you get underneath the surface, you'll see that PRRI interviewed more than 40,000 Americans in all 50 states for its research. It found that 54% believe abortions should be legal in all or most cases, while 40% believe that they should be illegal in all or most cases. Here's the thing. The question didn't define what cases, making it unclear exactly in what situations Americans support or oppose abortion. Now, consider that in light of these other polls taken by Gallup, Marist, The Hill, and Harvard University, which show very different results. In each case, a majority of Americans support substantial abortion limits. So it depends what poll you're looking at. And I think these other polls, in contrast to that PRRI poll, are more specific. Gallup, for example, polls on similar questions every year. Its latest poll, released in June, found that 60% of Americans want all or almost all abortions made illegal. In contrast, 38% said they want all or almost all abortions legal. That's significant. Did you hear those stats again? In other words, 60% of Americans believe that abortions, all of them or almost all, should be made illegal. In contrast, 38% said they want all or almost all abortions legal. That's significant in what we are dealing with in respect to the sanctity of human life. Now, the other day, pro-life governor of Kentucky, Matt Bevin, forwarded legislation protecting the sanctity of human life. That governor, I should say, is a very good governor, in contrast, I would say, to Governor Cuomo of New York. But in his announcement for this pro-life initiative, there was a group called Forward Kentucky, a progressive political blog, which reported about a press conference that included clergymen. Yes, clergymen stood in opposition to Governor Matt Bevin's pro-life legislation. And when we say clergymen, we need to be very specific about who we're dealing with. Because when you look at the clergymen involved, they basically come from liberal denominations, liberal backgrounds. And when I say liberal denominations, I'm speaking about the American Baptists. I'm speaking about the Evangelical Lutheran Church of America, not the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod or Lutheran Church Wisconsin Synod, I'm speaking about the Presbyterian Church USA, not the Presbyterian Church of America or Orthodox Presbyterian Church or the Evangelical Presbyterian Church. I'm speaking about the Episcopalians here in America. I'm talking about the United Church of Christ, the UCC denomination. Because out of those kinds of denominations, you'll get clergymen who want to redefine the definition of marriage, who believe that the unborn child does not have the right to life. For example, Lauren Jones Mayfield of Highland Baptist Church says, I support reproductive rights because I am a person of faith, not in spite of my faith. The Baptists I know respect the dignity of all people, which includes the dignity of women who are entitled to safe legal abortions. The Baptists I know cherish the priesthood of all believers, an idea that each individual is connected to the divine through their very personhood, which is created in a holy image. But wait a minute. Aren't unborn children people too? Not according to these clergymen. Here's another clergyman, Dr. Derek Pennwell of Douglas Boulevard Christian Church. He argued that Jesus had nothing to say about unborn babies. So he's arguing from the position of silence. Be careful about making conclusive statements from the position of Jesus being silent on the subject. Jesus was silent on the subject of idolatry. Jesus was silent on the subject of rape. Jesus was silent on the subject of bestiality. Jesus was silent on the subject of pedophilia. Jesus was silent on the subject of racism and racial discrimination. Because he was silent on those subjects, we don't say that those behaviors or actions are approved. We can't say that we are for those types of things on the basis of what we do not see in the biblical record from Jesus himself. Theology must do much better than what these clergymen do in coming to the conclusion that because Jesus didn't say anything about it, therefore, abortion is acceptable. Besides, when you look at the entire context of Scripture, we notice that God created life from conception. We see it there in Psalm 139. We see it in Jeremiah's calling there in Jeremiah chapter 1. And when you look at science, even abortionists are admitting that these young ones are human beings. For example, well-known abortionists like Willie Parker and Leroy Carhart openly admit that they are killing babies. We want to be very careful about how we use Scripture. Sharon Hordes of Kenneth, Israel, I believe she's a Reform Jew, as opposed to an Orthodox Jew, referred to Proverbs 31 to justify her abortion beliefs. Amazing. I don't know where you can get a position that advances the right to abortion from Proverbs 31, because Proverbs 31 articulates what an ideal woman is like. And according to Pastor Hordes, she says in this poem, the ideal woman is portrayed as strong and capable, not weak, subservient, or incapable of making decisions for herself. Rather, she is described as the personification of wisdom, with a great deal of responsibility both within and outside of her household. I ask you, is this an individual who should not be entrusted with important choices regarding her reproductive rights? I say to her, why are you trivializing the unborn child by referring to reproductive rights? Are unborn children reproductive rights? Aren't we talking about another human being here and not reproductive rights? Stop the trivialization of human life by using this term, reproductive rights. I'm sure that all these clergymen that are pictured here at the bottom would agree with one another that since Jesus didn't say anything about it, therefore abortion is okay. But I read an article by Scott Klusendorf entitled Dead Silence. Must the Bible say abortion is wrong before we can know it's wrong? Klusendorf writes that a curse, according to the people back then in the Old Testament, involved a woman being barren. Barrenness at that time was considered a curse. And yet a gift of God included having children. Having children was a blessing from God. Do you see the distinction there in the language that we see throughout the Old Testament? So Klusendorf concludes, Old Testament silence on abortion suggests prohibition against it were unnecessary, and arguing from silence does not give tacit approval of abortion. Do you see what he's saying? When you look at how the Old Testament views children as a gift and barrenness as a curse, this suggests that prohibitions against abortion were unnecessary because of the godly view of what it was like to have a child being referred to as a gift from God. Sadly, we see it in the Old Testament, children being sacrificed to gods. And those who did it strayed away from God. They paid not attention or obedience to his 10 commandments. They worshiped false gods and sacrificed their children on the altar to false gods. Now, we don't see false gods, and to the extent that we noticed in the Old Testament, but what we do see is that on the altar of secularism, it gives people a sense of rightness about offering their children in abortion for the sake of convenience. You can't do that if you're a biblical Christian. You can't go that route to say if it inconveniences my life, therefore I can put this child to death. That's wrong. We want to hold up the biblical ethic and regard the sanctity of human life as covering the unborn child as well. Don't forget, babies' lives matter. 6 p.m., August 25th, Park United Methodist Church. Hope to see you there. Bye for now.